I feel like we have a great relationship. From the moment I got here, we've had just great dialogue, and I certainly appreciate, all the insight he gives me, and, the way that he coaches and leads. And, we always have a great open lines of communication. So I really enjoyed my time, obviously, getting to know him and have great admiration for him as a coach, as a man, as what he is off the field, and how he commands and leads the team.
Okay, so you heard him, Brady, saying that he and Arians are good. Stephen A., you buying this?
Not really, because let me say two things. Number one, I've never heard a bad word about Bruce Arians as a man, in terms of his relationship with players and stuff like that. But number two, we can't take anything Tom Brady says seriously about somebody. Tom Brady doesn't say anything negative about anybody publicly. He just won't do it. So Tom Brady will look into the camera and lie through his teeth to all of us about how he truly felt, if he indeed did feel anything negative about Bruce Arians. So we can't sit up there and take that seriously. That's just not his MO. He's not going to do that. Having said all of that, what I will say is this. Any questions we have about the relationship with Brady and Arians is because of how openly critical Arians has been periodically about Tom Brady throughout the season. On several occasions, he's questioned what they could do, what the quarterback has missed doing. He's chided him or maligned him to some degree publicly, not just privately. And he's even brought into question Tom Brady not knowing something. I don't know whether he read the wrong defense or whatever the case may be. Go back and look at the quotes. I'm not making this up. I don't know Bruce Arians personally. We don't, I don't cover his team. We don't talk. I have no axe to grind here at all. It's not my way anyway. But the point is that I think that any question marks that exist about Brady and Arians is because of the way Arians has handled things. Considering that and Tom Brady's resume with 6 Super Bowl championships and 9 Super Bowl trips, one could imagine that he had to have been taken aback by some of the things Bruce Arians has been willing to say publicly, not privately, but publicly. I can't imagine that Brady would not have an issue with that. And I wouldn't expect Brady to admit it. I don't know, but it's just a guess.
I buy what I'm hearing from Brady and Arians. I don't think that everything's been perfect. In no relationship is everything perfect. And this is a brand new one, and they've had their ups and downs, but more ups than downs. So do I think there was some friction? I mean, going in, no risk it, no Mr. No risk it, no biscuit guy versus the dink and dunk man with all the Super Bowl rings. Yeah, of course. Does Brady bring Gronk? Is Arians happy about that? Yeah, but now that means I have to do some things differently. Antonio Brown, Arians was on the record. We don't want him in the locker room. He's not a fit. But Brady wants him, so he's there. Of course, that's going to cause some kind of consternation. But guys, what I look at in terms of the criticism of Tom Brady is Arians has known the right buttons to push with Brady. And Brady's been around the block. He has to recognize that. Brady's not stupid. So Arians, after the first loss to the Saints, criticized Brady publicly. See that, everybody? On the team. Forget about the public. I can go after Tom Brady. Tom Brady's going to be accountable. And Tom Brady was accountable. And they played better. And then, when Brady really needed someone to get his back, when he forgot the number of downs, right, at the end of the loss to Chicago, Arians lied for him. And Brady then covered for Arians when he was asked directly, and I suspect it was because Arians had already said something, Brady didn't want to contradict him, right? So, and what happened? They bounced right back. And every time Arians has criticized him, Brady has seemed to respond, and so has the team. And right now, they're 8-5. Guys, Brady is having a nice season. 3-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, high middle of the pack QBR, above average, and they're winning a lot. And Arians also has to know he's been around the block. It's a pretty good team with a nice record and some quality wins. It's not every season you get a season like this. And Arians has to know Brady's leadership and play has a good amount of responsibility for the fact that they're 8-5, which is a good record. So, do I think that Arians and Brady respect each other and believe the things they're saying? Yes. That doesn't mean there's no negative stuff underneath or in addition to it, but I think that they spoke the truth when they spoke about each other.
Okay. I mean, listen, we don't know. I certainly don't know. What I'm saying to you is that if there was something negative to say about Bruce Arians, we would not hear it from Tom Brady. Tom Brady, that's not his way. That's not his MO. One of the reasons we applaud the man so much is not only is he a winner, but he doesn't say stuff publicly. He keeps stuff in-house and he handles it accordingly with the level of professionalism that it deserves. If you recall, Max, to speak to the character of a Tom Brady, remember when the radio host in Boston had talked about his kid and Tom Brady had the weekly appearance with them, literally called into the station to express to them why he wasn't going to do the interview that particular week, and was as classy as you could be in pointing out that there were lines that were crossed there that you just don't cross. So I don't say about Tom Brady lying and not telling the truth about how he would feel negatively about somebody. I don't mean that to castigate him in any way. I'm speaking about his elevated level of character. This dude is class personified, and he is not going to handle business in a negative fashion publicly. That's not his way. So knowing that, I can't believe anything he really says when there's some kind of negative controversy that could be percolating, because I know we'll never hear about it from Tom Brady publicly. We know that much. Whereas in the case of Bruce Arians, when it comes to Tom Brady's play, or what he perceives as being Tom Brady's play, he's publicly chided him in ways that Bill Belichick never did. And so we have to remember that, and then move forward. It's not the end of the world, but we have to acknowledge that that's what has happened.
The responsibility of a head coach is different, obviously, than the quarterback. And Arians has said Brady's received too much criticism. And he's right about that. Like, you only criticize Brady if your expectations were unrealistic coming into the season. For a 43-year-old, he's having an amazing season. And the Bucs are even outpacing what the odds makers thought they would do in terms of wins and losses right now. They're on pace to do it. When you look at the rest of their schedule, they're likely to win at least 10, maybe 11 games. When the over-under was 9.5, I believe. So Arians is speaking the truth about Brady, just as he spoke the truth when Brady would mess up and he needed to hold Brady accountable to show the team how it was going to work. And Brady, Stephen A., it's interesting. Yes, of course, he remembers that stuff with Arians. How could he not? And however he compares Arians favorably or unfavorably to Belichick, let's say, and there are lots of ways in which it's going to be unfavorable because Belichick's the greatest of all time. It's not a knock against Arians. The question is, if you lead like Tom Brady, do you have to really internalize what you're telling people? Or is he thinking, I really don't like this Arians guy, but I'm going to say something different? No, I believe, just my belief, that Brady drinks the Kool-Aid, even if it's his own Kool-Aid, pardon, and convinces himself of the things he says before he says them, or believes them in order to sell them, and in order to lead. I think those guys are telling the truth about each other right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, an interesting dynamic between these two, and one that has been making headlines all season long. And something else, gentlemen, that has made headlines this morning is the fact that Drew Brees is officially the starting quarterback this Sunday against the Chiefs. That, according to our Adam Schefter. Now, Brees, he has not played since Week 10 because of a rib injury. But obviously, this is great news for the Saints. Max, how much does this game change now that Brees is at quarterback?
It really does. Taysom Hill, I think, was actually doing an admirable job, considering it's his first real action there consistently. But you ain't going to beat the Chiefs trying to, ball control. You're going to have some dynamism in your offense and try to get them into a shootout. And the Saints, by the way, also have, until very recently, a very, very good defense. They were on a run there for about a month where the defense looked like the best in the game, even if not the most talented. So the difference between Taysom Hill really learning how to lead the team and be an effective NFL starting quarterback, or Jameis Winston, who gave you a puncher's chance, but it came with high risk, versus a motivated Drew Brees, coming off injury, knowing that this could be his swan song. Remember, he was thinking about retiring last year, with maybe the best, most balanced team he's been on, at least since they won the Super Bowl, and knowing with only one bye in each conference, and the Packers hot on their tail, that they really need to win this game that could be a Super Bowl preview, and knowing that even if you forget about the bye, he ain't going to want to have to travel to Lambeau in winter to go to the frozen tundra in the playoffs versus a home game in the Dome where they're much, much better. There's so much on the line for Breeze, guys. I think it makes an enormous difference in this matchup.
When I look at this game, I do agree with the notion that it's more difficult to prep for Taysom Hill than it is for Drew Brees, because as exceptional as Drew Brees is, he's a drop back passer. It's what he does. And literally, he's living in the pocket because he's not one who scrambles outside of the pocket too often. When you take that into consideration and you think about the maneuverability of a Taysom Hill, the way the wheels that he has on him, how he is a threat at the quarterback position to run the football and move the chains that way, it's more difficult to defend against that if you're the Kansas City Chiefs than to defend against Drew Brees. But I still say that Drew Brees, his accuracy throwing the football, his chemistry with Michael Thomas, the kind of things he can do in terms of flinging that football to the accurate level that he does, makes everybody around him more lethal, because they could just get a step and you know Drew Brees is going to get the ball to them. That is not the same with Taysom Hill. So I see this as being a game where Drew Brees definitely forces the secondary of the Kansas City Chiefs to be even more on their P's and Q's. But also, if you're Sean Payton, to keep Kansas City off balance, you can still utilize Taysom Hill in a fashion that you did for years prior to Drew Brees getting injured. I look at it as Drew Brees definitely being a significant upgrade as opposed to him being out and Kansas City strictly having to prepare for Taysom Hill.
Yeah, I don't think Hill gave him I think Hill gave him the third best chance of all the quarterbacks on the roster. Again, what's the one game the Chiefs lost this season?
To who?
They gave up 40 points. I think number one, Drew Brees gives him the best chance. Then against the Chiefs, specifically just the Chiefs, Jameis gives him the second best chance because he gives you a puncher's chance at least. He'll throw the ball down the field, and then Taysom Hill. I don't think you beat the Chiefs with ball control. I don't think yes, you want to keep Mahomes off the field, but when you look at the games they've lost in recent years, high-scoring games, 40 points to the Raiders. What was it, 40-32 or something like that? And even the rematch that was tough was a high-scoring game. You want, in fact, counterintuitively, to get into a high-scoring shootout with the Chiefs, not because you're likely to win. You're likely to lose, but you're more likely to win than if you just try to ball control them. This ain't a team you're going to be able to ball control to defeat.
I feel you on that, Max Kellerman, but I think that I would buy that argument if Jameis Winston got some time this year. But to not having played this year and then to put him in there against the Kansas City Chiefs and to say that would be a better shot than Taysom Hill, I do not agree with that at all. I could see Jameis Winston throwing a couple of picks relatively early and then it being a blowout before we had a chance to pass gas or something. I mean, I can't see it. I wouldn't see it that way at all. I definitely think that Drew Brees is Drew Brees, and Taysom Hill, you utilize him that way, and you make them a two-headed monster for the purposes of going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that's how you would do that. I do not believe that Jameis Winston would give them a better chance in this particular contest.
By the way, but because it's going to be Drew Brees,
backup quarterback at this point.
But because it's going to be Drew Brees, I'm sorry, Charlie. I was just going to say, because it's going to be Drew Brees, the whole idea of the yards per attempt was so low this year. But again, no Emmanuel Sanders. With Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders and Kamara and the defense playing the way it does. And by the way, a nice long rest for Brees as he was recovering from the ribs and the lung. I expect the yards per attempt to be much different down the stretch heading into the playoffs from Drew Brees.
All right, well, we only have a couple minutes left, but let's talk about one last game on the docket for this weekend. We have Russell Wilson and the Seahawks taking on Washington. Now, Dwayne Haskins has been getting first-team reps this week, and he does look at this point to be the starter. So, Max, who needs a bigger game? Is it Wilson or is it Haskins?
Actually, Russell Wilson, believe it or not. I'll leave Haskins to you, Stephen A., but he ain't going to change his whole world with one game. It's not like he's suddenly going to be, he's not a bust. He's doing great. It's going to be a long process, it looks like, for Haskins. But Russell Wilson's been trending the wrong way. And the Seahawks are extremely dependent upon his play. When both you and I say we like them against the Rams in the playoffs, we're talking about the X factor of Russell Wilson. He's never won an MVP. They rely on him to win shootouts, and early in the season he was doing it. And to re-enter that MVP race and reestablish the Seahawks as real title contenders, he's got to be big against this Washington defense.
And Max, look at the teams that the Seahawks have been playing as of recent.
I think Haskins has to show something. I mean, he's 3-8 as a starter. He's 1-3 this season as a starter. Complete just 60% of his passes. Lost